Pawnee City, Nebraska, 8 miles north at the Kansas border, I think population of a little more than 1,000. How was going to school with your dad as principal?
You know what, it was okay. My dad was a disciplinarian, but my dad was cool. He was a good dad. And he was a great principal. All the kids loved him. He was an elementary principal. It did stink though when I got we used to have a thing in our school called tallies. And if you got so many tallies, you got in trouble. Mm-hmm. Of course, elementary principals, kids got a lot of.
In what ways was he strict?
Well, he was, his dad was pretty tough on him. He's old school, you know.
Yeah. And I asked that too because in reading about you, it seemed like there was just more there to, you know, that relationship. Like he was really strict and.
Well, he was strict in some things and not strict in other things. You know, he's just like, I would say he was probably, he was old school. You know, you do something, you get spanked, taking the belt off, he's gonna spank you. You know, you didn't cross him. He was tough. So it only took one time for me to do something I shouldn't do, and that was it. And I knew not to do it again.
Is there one time that sticks out the most when you misbehaved and he really had
report card day? Report card day hammered me, you know. But
what would happen?
Well, you get flipping, spanked, punched, you name it, you know. Spanked, punched. You know, he was a human being. I got no ill will toward him. He's dead now, and it is what it is. You know, it didn't turn me into a bad person. Right. Sometimes I deserve, let me tell you, sometimes I deserve to get spanked. You know, sometimes I deserve to smack across the head. You know, I was a stupid kid sometimes. Did he overdo it sometimes? I think so. I wouldn't treat my kids the way my dad treated me. But I didn't get in a lot of trouble when I was a kid. I stayed out of trouble because I was scared of my dad, and I knew what would happen if I got in trouble. So, you know, a lot of people blame this or blame that. I don't blame that on anything, you know. People are human beings. Human beings are going to be human beings. My dad made a lot of mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes. So it is what it is.
Do you think that had any impact on you as you were growing up?
I think it made me funny. I think it made me way famous. It made me have good timing.
Why?
Well, if my dad came home and it was report card day and my brother was in trouble and I was in trouble and it was going to be tense, I always knew when to pop a joke out and make him laugh. I could make my dad laugh. So I knew when to say something, and I knew when to not say something. I knew when to tell a joke, and I knew, that's how I'm always got good timing. I know when to tell a joke. I know when it's appropriate to tell a joke. I know when I should tell a joke. He taught me that pretty good.
Describe what it was like growing up on basically a pig farm.
Yeah, you know, I raised, you know, it's really crazy. I love that life. You know, the guy that ran the sale barn was like my adopted grandpa, and I'd go to the sales. I remember waiting for Thursday. I couldn't wait for the class to get out when I was a kid, and I'd ran home and I grabbed my hog stick, my bullwhip, and I ran across to the sale barn and I started loading and unloading cattle trucks and hog trucks. I loved it. It was my life.
How do you go about buying it as a kid 3 pigs and discreetly raising them in your bedroom closet?
My mom tell you that?
Yeah.
I got into raising hogs because Kenny, who was my adopted grandpa, I call him, I went with him to a sale like I always did, and he bought me 3 little baby feeder pigs. I mean, they were little. And I had to bottle feed them. And I didn't have a place to put them. So I snuck them into the closet. And I put them in the closet and I gave them some water. and I would get a bottle. I get sale barn, I get the little bottle thing, and I walk in there and I'd feed my pigs. And then my mom found out they were in the closet. And I had to move them, so we ended up making a place for them in the barn, you know. But that got me started. And I was probably the only 9-year-old, 8 or 9-year-old in Pawnee City, Nebraska, or anywhere in Nebraska for that matter, that already had a bank account of about $3,200 because I was going over to the sale barn and I would buy 4. I would sell some. I would buy this many. I would sell some.
And your parents were cool with that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I had a place made for them and the whole deal. It got to the point where I was buying 35 head, 40 head, you know, loading them up on a truck and bringing, oh, yeah, I had a whole thing going. Yeah.
And how old were you then?
Well, when I was buying that many, probably 10.
Okay.
10 or 11.
Yeah.
But I could do the whole thing. I understand. I'd sit there, and the auctioneer would come on there, and hey, would have been for that? What about hand? That would have been half high. Hey, would have been that? Would have been that? Would have been that? Would have been half high. That would have been that. And I'm a little kid. And I'm like going like this. Hip, hip. I'd be like, hip. You know, I knew my limits. Kenny trusted me. If he thought I was going too much, he'd be in the ring and he'd look at me and go, shake his head at me. And that's, man, I loved it. I did that I loved it.